against the consensus and be wrong. You could just do something stupid, an outlier, and it'll be wrong. You need to try and find a way to bet against the consensus and be right. So what I really urge people to do, what I try and do with all the ideas that we have when we evaluate whether we're going forward, because we have way more ideas than we could do, is really try and figure out, do we have some insight that we know is true that other people don't know yet? And you really have to dig deep to figure out if you have that. But that is one of the biggest ingredients of having a successful idea. It's not just having an idea that no one's done before. It's not just having a slightly better way of doing something that someone else is already doing. But Tony talked about that earlier too, about some of the insights of Starbucks and Subway and others. The insight that they had that people didn't think was true, but they knew would be true, and they carried it forward. So I think that's a really important way to evaluate the idea that you're doing and the new ideas that you come up with. The second thing, timing. I never really realized how important timing was. I always thought, just come up with an idea and blitz and just go as fast as you can and do it. But in fact, timing matters a great, great deal, and here's why. There are things that are outside of your control. We'll take the example that I gave of Aptera, our company that failed because the timing was bad for getting a DOE loan. But that was something we couldn't control. Now that was also something maybe we couldn't predict. So things like that are going to happen. Unpredictable things for sure will happen. But there are many predictable things that you can see happening that you can avoid by looking at timing closely. But here's why timing is so hard. When you're coming up with a new idea, if it's truly a contrarian idea, first it's going to be ridiculed. People are going to make fun of it. Then, when you start having some traction, it's actually going to be opposed. People are not going to like that idea. They're going to be threatened by it, so they're going to start opposing it. And then finally, it will be accepted as self-evident. When it's accepted as self-evident, like the story with GoTo, like everybody understands paid search now, then you've won. But you have to make it through those first two stages. So your timing matters greatly for that. Another example of that, we had a company called Z.com. It was one of the first online entertainment companies. After our success with e-commerce companies, we felt entertainment is going to move online immediately. And we were based in Los Angeles, Hollywood, connections. We can try and make great entertainment companies online. So Z.com, we formed the company, got a great CEO from Disney, raised $10 million. I actually personally met with Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, got them to sign on. I gave them each 10% of the company to be exclusive to us for their comedic content online. It was incredible. Everything was great. The problem? No broadband connections. We only had about 10 or 15% of America with a fast connection. There was no way to even view their funny video in your browser. You had to do all these weird codecs and plugins to try and view it. This was 2001, 2002, 2003. We eventually went out of business at the end of 2003. We spent our $10 million trying to build a brand, trying to get people to watch it. The people who could watch it loved it, but we were just way too early. The challenge is when you, by definition, want to be ahead of your time, you don't want to be way ahead of your time. Being way too early is just as bad as being too late. In fact, probably worse. If you're a little bit late, you can catch up. If you're way too early, there's nothing you can do if those other things are out of your control. And I'll tell you what's out of our control. Broadband penetration and watching videos in your browser. A year after we went out of business, Adobe invented Flash. 6 months after that, YouTube was founded, basically on Flash. All of a sudden, broadband penetration, a mere 18 months later, went from 20% to 50%. We had that S-curve going along. We were just too early on that S-curve of broadband penetration. If we could have survived 18 months longer, we could have made a really, really great company. But we were so focused on getting out there, building the company, growing bigger, building a brand, we had to lay off people in waves to finally close down to a company that doesn't exist today. We were just too early. So I really say, go take a look at the things outside of your control that you need to succeed and make sure they're in place. Take Uber as an example. If Uber had come out before GPS was available on phones, it wouldn't work. Now, Uber didn't invent GPS, and Uber didn't happen only because of GPS, but that was something else that had to happen outside of their control. They couldn't put the satellites in space to do that. They couldn't make the phones to do that, but they capitalized on it. So looking at things that are happening in the world that influence your success is a really, really crucial thing that I really, really urge you to do, and I try and look at with all our companies. It's not easy. It's not easy to do. And like I said, it's better to be to last long enough till the timing is right. And what that means is conserve your cash. Try and survive longer. If you see the timing is coming, if the curve is moving and you're just too early, just make it long enough till it gets there. Number 3, don't be dilution sensitive. Okay, so I told you, we put in the first $250,000 in the companies, and then we help the CEOs raise additional capital. Well, just like me, just like all our CEOs, we always want to get the most amount of money for the highest valuation, lowest dilution. but it's not worthwhile to over-optimize that. Getting high equity participation for your employees and your investors is a very good thing. You want everybody aligned. You want to choose the best investor, not the one who gives you the highest price. I really, really can't say this strongly enough. Even still, after doing this 150 times, my urge is to still go for a higher valuation. But I force myself to go for the best investor and best partner and not go for the absolute highest valuation. And then more importantly, motivate your staff by sharing equity and upside. It's amazing how powerful that is. It's amazing how good that will make you feel, but forget about that. It's amazing how better that will optimize your results. To have other people share in the upside, that everybody is in it together. It really, really works. It's something I've learned it took a long time till I realized that. I wish someone had told that to me 40 years ago.
Thanks for tuning in to the Masters of Business season of the Tony Robbins podcast. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of this episode with entrepreneur Bill Gross, where he shared 3 of the lessons he's learned over several decades, founding, growing, and selling companies worth more than $1 billion each. What you just heard was recorded just last month at Business Mastery, where Bill went on to share 7 more lessons with the audience, lessons that have shaped him into the legendary business owner he is today. To learn more about Tony Robbins' Business Mastery and how an experience like this can help you transform your own business and career, go to www.tonyrobbins.com/businessmastery. Now, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, now is the time to do so. Because next up, we have part 2 of the episode, where you'll hear Tony ask Bill questions about his top strategies for success as a business owner, including how to raise capital, the best ways to incentivize employees for performance, and his vision for the future. If you're a business owner or an investor looking for future trends, you'll want to hear what he has to say. The Tony Robbins podcast is a collection of interviews and stories and is produced by the Tony Robbins team. Copyright Robbins Research International.